The season is getting close to the finish line, and some of the games at the finish line this weekend were kind of bananas.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to a Locked On MLB, Locked On Diamondbacks crossover. This is the podcast we talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. I am an Emmy-nominated television producer who has been a baseball podcaster for over a decade now. This is my fifth season that we're in the back nine for, probably in the back six for, on the Locked On Podcast Network. You can follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow me. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, or X, or whatever the hell it's called now. Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And every week I collaborate with this guy right here. Please sign in.
Yes, Millard Thomas, host of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. You can catch me on Twitter at CareerThomas24 for my personal account. Look up Locked On Diamondbacks, both Twitter, Instagram for the podcast handle. Of course, hit subscribe for Locked On Diamondbacks on the YouTube channel. And before I go, just real quick, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
All right, so Millard.
Yep.
I was toying with the idea of calling you from the game. You were at the ball game today. You went to the ballpark. I keep wanting to call it the Bank One ballpark, but you saw the Diamondbacks do something they haven't done a lot of recently. That is, they won a baseball game. Tell us about your day at the ballpark today.
Yeah, the experience of seeing the D-backs win, because it's been so few and far between recently, because I went to the game on Friday. I admittedly go to a lot of D-backs games. I want the people to know that the Locked On D-backs host is a dedicated guy, and he's gone to like 15 games this season. But I went to the game on Friday, hoping to break the losing streak then and there. Did not happen, unfortunately, but I got to go to the Sunday finale, and watching the D-backs win was such a good feeling, because this team in the first half of the season, the thing that they did best, better than any other team in Major League Baseball, was this little thing called comeback Sully baseball. They were coined the answer backs because they had so many comebacks. And on Sunday, we got to see it again, because entering the seventh, down a couple runs, Lourdes Gurriel ties it up with a bomb. They get a sac fly in the eighth inning, and then the answer to their closing problems, hopefully going forward. On the second night of a back-to-back, we get Paul Sewald to close it out. He's bringing energy. He's bringing fire. I'm not saying the D-backs are back, because we are far and away back from saying that statement, but it's at least nice to see the D-backs handle the business against the San Diego Padres and not drop to fourth place in the NL West.
But let's go over something for a second here. We are recording this on the evening of the 13th of August 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yes.
The D-backs had to win today to climb back to 500. Am I correct? Your Honor, if I said anything wrong at this point.
All factual so far, sir.
Now, to think about the last day when a Diamondbacks fan woke up, could look at their phone, look at their device or whatever, and see their team in a playoff position, was the beginning of this month. Mm-hmm. August, from Memorial Day until July 25th, they were either in first place or a wild card team every single day. And you could have woken up on the morning of August 1st and said, hey, my team's a playoff team. And here we are less than 2 weeks later. And we're saying, well, at least we're back to 500. I'm sorry. I mean, this was a team that I had. It was a lot of fun having you on here, because they were a fun, exciting team with good pitching at the top and some exciting hitters on there. What in the name of Tony Womack is going on here?
Yeah, it's been disgusting because I also like to do a little weekly crossover with Javier Reyes of Locked On Padres, and
Oh,
I was giving
jeez.
him crap for a long time. D-backs, Padres. I always see the Padres take it to the D-backs in all these regular season series, and for once, I was like, "Hey, Javi, let's talk again about the state of the NL West. Look at my team ahead of your team, number one in the standings." Then all of a sudden, you fast forward to this weekend series, and I was like, "If the D-backs don't have a good series. If the D-backs get swept like they've been doing the last 2 weeks, the D-backs are going to drop to fourth place in the NL West. I'm going to have to hear Javi's mouth. So it's been just disgusting for the D-backs, the bullpen, the rotation depth. I mean, they're revamping everything right now. We just got Carson Kelly DFA'd. They reinstated Gabriel Moreno. They called up another rookie, Bryce Jarvis. They started a rookie starter last week. Like, they're just revamping this whole thing. They're kind of grasping for straws a little bit as they're getting desperate because they really just don't know what's going on. Toy Lavello's like, I'm preaching positive messages every day. I don't know what to do for my team at this point in the season. So the D-backs are kind of grasping for straws a little bit, deep into their minor leagues, calling up Buddy Kennedy. So we'll see what happens going forward there. But the only saving grace is I keep looking up at the wild card standings, and no one, as we keep saying week to week, no one has yet to pull away. The D-backs are 2.5 games back of a wild card spot, which is crazy because, like you said, there were once like 16 games above 500, and now we're just climbing back to a 500 record. It's been disgusting what's happened to the D-backs the last 2 months.
I'm really I find it staggering, quite frankly. I mean, like, I thought the Diamondbacks were going to be an okay team this year. I thought they were going to be a fringe wild card contender. I didn't. I thought they were going to hover around 500. Which, if we all woke up today, if we were asleep from late March until right now, we woke up, it's like, oh, look at that. The Diamondbacks are at 500 and are only 2 back in the loss column of a wild card spot. What a wonderful year this must have been in Arizona. Sometimes you have to remind yourself that. Sometimes you have to sort of allow yourself to keep something in perspective. The teams that are currently ahead of them for that final wild card spot in the National League, Miami, who we'll get to a little bit in when we talk about the crazy finishes, because they had a surreal finish today against the Yankees, but they also got a complete game victory from Sandy Alcantara, which is in some ways like making a trade, because they traded lousy Sandy Alcantara from the first half to very good Sandy Alcantara in the second half, and getting him back to looking like an ace should make Peter Pratt and everyone who are rooting for the Marlins kind of sort of happy. But we see the Cubs have been sometimes look great, or sometimes they got the doors blown off like they did with James and Taillon today. Sometimes the Reds look unstoppable, and sometimes they look like an absolute mess. And so the teams that they are facing, it's almost like just hang tight with them. Just stay within a couple of games and hope that a couple of them collapse, because you still do have good pitching. You still do have good talent on that team. And I just can't help but it's just so mind-boggling to me how far this team, like, they dropped 16, 17 games in the standings.
Yeah, it's been disgusting. Because let me ask you this, because I do definitely agree. If you go listen to like a preseason Locked On D-backs podcast, I would have told you this was the perfect scenario for the D-backs, back in the preseason. I'm looking up mid-August. They're 2 games back of a wild card spot at this point. They're a 500 team. I would have told you, you know what? Sign me up for that. But considering how the season transpired, I now have to ask the question, with how epic of a collapse this has been for the D-backs, like, how hot of a seat should Toy Lavello, the manager of the D-backs, and Mike Hazen's, the GM of the D-backs seat, should be, because they're both tied up for at least through next season, I think, 2024. And as it currently stands, I'm like, okay, maybe you do bring them back for at least next season, but I think next year is a big make or break point,
Yes.
where if the D-backs are not where the Baltimore Orioles are next season, or maybe you're not like a true World Series contender, but you're consistently one of the best teams in the regular season with a chance to make a deep postseason run. That's what I think the D-backs have to be next season. They have to be the Baltimore Orioles.
Well, also, imagine if this were flipped. Imagine if they got off to a rancid start and then they had a big thrust.
Yeah.
I mean, like, if you come back to this is why it's kind of like it's the order in which things were done. They had the great start, and now they've had this staggering middle part. If it were reversed,
they like contract extension.
Oh my God, this is Torey Lavello is the greatest manager since Earl Weaver.
That's true.
And so it's strange how things are done if they're done in the wrong order, how it could reflect poorly on a team. I think I think that if the Diamondbacks make the playoffs, and they still have a shot to make the playoffs,
Still, yeah.
obviously you bring everybody back. I think if the Diamondbacks finish above 500, I think you bring them back and you look at this as a big learning experience because you saw Baltimore's a perfect example. You saw last year for a couple of days the Orioles were a wild card team and they did it reversed.
Yeah.
They started off horribly, and then they had the great finish. And they finished the season with their nose above 500, a lot of talent, and I think it kind of you had a lot of the young players kind of got their sea legs. Sort of like, okay, this is what it felt like to play meaningful games. We didn't win piddly poo, but we got a sense of it. Kansas City did the same thing back in 2013, which led to their back-to-back World Series appearances. I would right now, I mean, they've done this a little bit. Every good prospect bring up right now. Just bring them up. Okay? You don't know who's going to give a spark or anything on the team right now. You gotta try to run that and hopefully give that little spark to the team. But yeah, I think that it is startling to see a team that started off so positively, and I mean, the other elephant in the room, and it's not Stomper, the mascot for the A's, but it's the
Okay.
fact that the Dodgers have found their sea legs.
Yeah.
I mean, the Dodgers. I mean, they're right now in an 8-game winning streak. They're the Dodgers again, and I think some of the moves that they made, while they didn't make the big honkin' trade, they did bring back some pitching depth, and I think the Kershaw coming back and acquiring Lance Lynn and Lance Lynn remembering how to pitch. I think these are all positive things. I think that's another thing that has hurt, but also San Francisco
Yep.
reemerging. I mean, like those two teams got off to clunky starts, and you are with the stunning thing to me is that San Diego has not found itself. And so that to me, that has helped and will continue your trash talking with Javier Reyes. Hey, you went to the ball game today. How did you get your tickets to the ball game?
I mean, I didn't use this app. Next time, I definitely will. These are free gifted tickets, admittedly, that I got today. But if they weren't these free tickets that I got, the app that I would have used to purchase my tickets is, of course, let me get the video overlay, Gametime, because the best place to get last minute tickets is Gametime. Forget planning months in advance. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, baseball, basketball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps and you're set. Snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account or redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And don't forget to catch every D-backs and I guess any baseball pitch you want on the SiriusXM app. When you look up D-backs, or can you look up? I don't know. Can you look up Locked On MLB on the? I'm sure you can, right? On the
I'm sure you
SiriusXM
can.
app.
I'm sure you
Yeah,
can. Yeah.
just type in MLB. Yeah, I'm sure if you type in MLB, Locked On MLB will pop up. Just shout out our SiriusXM sponsors.
All right, that was seamless.
Thank
Hey,
you.
let's. I have to answer to to one of my everyday Sullies. Everyone, the people listen every day.
What they're
I have
called?
a Katie Kity Kity has been on me like a wet sponge on YouTube, basically implying that I have been ignoring the Seattle Mariners.
Mm.
And I swear I haven't. I just haven't been mentioning them on the show maybe as often as you would like. And I will say I cannot please everybody. But I will say that the Mariners, who have, they were playing not that long ago. Let me just sort of I'm here at baseballreference.com, the single greatest website in the history of the planet Earth. And it was, if you took a look at where they were in mid-July, they were sub 500 team. They were sub 500 and really on the outside looking in. And the Mariners are one of my favorite teams. They've always been one of my favorite teams since before Ken Griffey Jr. I have over there, it's too far to reach right now. I have my Trident hat with the star around it. I loved the Pacific Northwest. As I've mentioned, I'm a graduate of Washington State University, go Cougs. But the fact of the matter is by the middle of July, it's like, oh, I was toying with the idea of should they just give Scott Service the boot? But again, like we were saying, it's the order of which the winning comes about. And let's just take a quick peek on they were a sub 500 team on the middle of July, on July 19th. They were July 19th, they were a sub 500 team.
Suck it.
And since then, hold on a second. After that day, the Mariners are, at baseballreference.com, single website in the history of planet Earth. The Mariners are 15-6 since then.
Oof.
And and that includes this weekend series where they dropped 2 or 3 in extra innings to Baltimore. And these were wild, dramatic games that were being played. And so, you take a look, and they have now climbed to within about a game and a half of a wild card spot where they're chasing Toronto. And Toronto has not been, I'm stunned that Toronto has not been a more steady contender this year because they are loaded with talent. They're absolutely, loaded with talent. But every time I look up, I'm stunned that Cal Raleigh of the Mariners only has 20 home runs. The reason is because whenever I look at a highlight, he has 2 or 3 home runs in that game. I assumed he was close to 80 this year if you were just casually looking at some of the highlights. If you take a look at the fact that they have, Teoscar Hernandez, has he been great this year? No, not really. But he's been getting some big hits recently. Julio Rodriguez, has he been a superstar? But he's been getting the big hits when they need it. And they've been getting the pitching. By the way, this weekend, there were 2 great ceremonies. One for Fernando Valenzuela at Dodger Stadium, and there was one for Felix Hernandez in Seattle. And they were both appropriate ceremonies because Fernando played during a massive, great streak of Dodger division titles and championships and everything like that. And they celebrated him while they're in the middle of this massive winning streak, and people were whispering they go back to the World Series. Felix Hernandez famously won the Cy Young Award with a 13-12 record because he led the league in every single category, and the Mariners couldn't score for him. Appropriately on that day, George Kirby threw 9 shutout innings and got a no decision in what turned out to be a 1-0 game. But they're getting the pitching. Kirby has been pitching well. Luis Castillo's been pitching well. They've they've turning their bullpen around. And this is exactly the kind of dangerous team when you have a team that has been underperforming. If they sneak into the postseason, listen to this possible gateway, okay? If Seattle sneaks into the postseason, they will sneak in probably as the 6th seed, the third wildcard team, which means they would play Minnesota.
Oh.
Now, Minnesota can pitch. We all saw Pablo Lopez pitch well. They can pitch, but they are not a super team.
They're bad.
As the way it would be right now, Tampa and Houston would play each other. One of them would cancel each other out. But that would leave Seattle with a pretty quick route to the division series where they would play either, Baltimore or Texas. They have the pitching to beat either one of those teams. I like the starting pitching. If it's Baltimore, Seattle, I like Seattle's starting pitching more than I like Baltimore's. Now, if this series with Baltimore is any preview of what these two teams would be like in a series, sign me up. That's going to be some great freaking baseball. But this could be the exact kind of team that you look up and say, how did that 87 win team make it to the ALCS and blah, 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 this way? We saw it last year with the Phillies. We saw it a few years ago with the Nationals and with Atlanta. It happens when you have a team that's actually pretty good, has been underperforming, that gets hot at the right time and has the pitching to pull it off. And so am I picking the Mariners to win the pennant? No, I'm not. I'm not even sure if they're going to make it past Toronto. But if they do, then they are going to be super dangerous. Talented teams with nothing to lose are super dangerous.
I don't hate it. I don't hate the pick. Their pitching has definitely been their strong point. I mean, when you look at that rotation, their bullpen, I mean, the ERAs of a lot of their guys have been fantastic. The lineup is definitely the area that you're probably a little bit concerned with. And, maybe some of those D-backs players that they acquired at the deadline or in the offseason, because these two teams have been kind of linked throughout the season. Maybe a Canzone or a Josh Rojas, or maybe your guy Cooper or Hummel can finally come through for you guys, Mariners fans, late for you guys in the postseason. But
you see Canzone hit the game tying home run today. He hit one that I think it landed in the upper deck in Arizona, and they were playing the game in Seattle. It was out of everything.
Oh, good for that
two
guy.
outs in the bottom of the ninth, tied the game with a homer. They didn't win the game, but he got the home run there.
We're pro Canzone, so hopefully he works out for the Seattle Mariners. But this was a team that was kind of struggling, and when you look at that AL wildcard race, I mean, they've been kind of helped out by some teams like in New York. The Yankees kind of falling back in that race a little bit. The Boston Red Sox, I mean, they're kind of weird. They're getting kind of healthy. I don't know. I kind of want to watch out for that team. Maybe that's the team the Mariners should be worried about. The team that's not ahead of them, but the team that could be nipping on their heels with the stories and the sales back in the mix a little bit. And when you look at the teams ahead of the Seattle Mariners right now, like you said, it's really just the Toronto Blue Jays. And quietly, a little point that Javier Reyes brought up on my podcast is Vlad Guerrero Jr. Really, outside that one season where it was like between him and Ohtani in the home run race, kind of a little bit of an overrated career so far. It hasn't really had that high ceiling outside that one season. Maybe we over discussed the how we know what his talent and ceiling can be, but he hasn't really replicated or been as consistent as that 1 year.
I'll give you a comp. Bryce Harper.
Okay.
Bryce Harper, the first bunch of years, there was a lot of talk. Well, yeah, he's talented, but was he overrated? Is he overrated? We keep forgetting how freaking young Vlad Jr. is, and how young he was when he burst onto the scene. I think that he will still have a terrific career. The talk of will he be as good as his dad? Well, his dad's in the Hall of Fame. But no, I still think Vlad has many really great years, a lot of great years ahead of him.
Yeah, because we talk about the lack of the rotation, but just the lack of development anywhere on the roster that's just been awful for the Angels. And the pitching's part of that too.
It's astonishing. By the way, you mentioned the AL East. The AL East, Baltimore had back-to-back extra inning games against Seattle that were just banana boats. Tampa Bay, they got the doors blown off the dump today. The Guardians blew them out. But the previous 2 days were absolutely like Friday night. The Rays bullpen absolutely collapsed. Like they were throwing wild pitches, walking batters. I think 2 runners came in on wild pitches. It was crazy. They had a big lead going into the ninth. They blew the lead, and then Wander Franco hit a home run to end the game. And then Saturday, the Cleveland had a big lead and just chip away until a Rosarena got the big hit to walk it off. Now, they lost today, but, those are 2 walk-off games that the Rays won. And they're kind of sort of serving notice that, hey, don't forget us. I know that we're still in this thing here. Boston had the series against, by the way, if you're a Red Sox fan, I hated those yellow uniforms until I saw that they've won like 25 out of 30 games wearing them. Yeah. So wear them every day. Sale came back, and even though when you get through the
Sale?
fifth, he was throwing a no-hitter into the fifth.
Yeah.
And, any inning you get out of Sale at this point, consider the fact that we all thought that he was done.
Story?
Story had a bunch of hits today.
He had like 4 hits today or something.
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
he's like 4 for
it's
4.
when you start getting contributions from players like, oh yeah, geez, I forgot they were even on the team.
You had like 2 highest paid players on your payroll.
And Whitlock pitched well today. It was Detroit, but you still got to win games. You still have to beat those teams. And we all saw what happened between Toronto against the Cubs. I mean, just absolutely. Merrifield had a 4-hit game, and Jameson Taillon was awful with a capital awful.
Terrible. Dude.
It was an entertaining weekend. Baltimore still looks like they might be the best, but it wouldn't stun me to see Tampa, who, lest we forget, we talk about, Baltimore as if they have a 9-game lead. They have a 3-game lead.
Yeah.
They have a 3-game lead at this point. It's going to be an interesting division.
Are we saying Angels officially cooked in the wild card?
Cooked? Oh my God, they're a sub 500 team.
Okay.
They are a sub 500 team.
I think they said Ohtani's gonna miss the next start too with arm fatigue because
I would too. I think you know what that's called. I'm about to become a free agent. I'm not going to blow out my arm for this garbage organization.
Hey,
they've lost 7 of their last 10 games. The Angels are beyond dead.
I respected the zag by the organization, but it looks like you're gonna lose Ohtani.
You can't do the zag without also resigning him. How many times do I have to say this? All the zagging in the world. Yeah, that's great that you went
zigging and zagging.
But you had to also resign him. You had to say, what's the number? If the number was, and with all the money he brings in, who cares what the number is?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
By the way, on just crazy finishes that was going on today. You saw the
Rangers?
The Rangers. Well, yeah, let's get to the Rangers game. The Rangers and what I like to call the Bruce Bochy series. The strange series between San Francisco and Texas. The Rangers took the lead with there was a run scored on a balk, which is always fun. Kids love to see balks. And the Rangers took a 2-1 lead into the bottom of the 10th. The Rangers tied the game in the 9th, take the lead in the 10th. Bailey hits a 2-run home run to give the Giants the victory. Just strange game, strange series right there. Your D-backs against they were able to, but I mentioned the Orioles and the Mariners. Cedric Mullins had the best 9th and 10th inning that someone can have. Sorry, I hit my mic right there. He jumped over the fence to take away a game-tying home run in the 9th. Okay. Then your boy hit a home run with 2 outs that even he couldn't jump high enough to catch. And then Mullins came up and hit a go-ahead home run in the top of the 10th. That's a pretty good 2 innings. That's essentially 2 home runs. I'm going to remove one and add one. Wild game there. There was just 2 games like the Nationals. I know the Nationals and the A's. No one's going to send those tapes to Cooperstown. Ken Burns is not going to have a lot of mentioning in the next update of his documentary about the 2023 Nationals and A's. But for criminy sake, the Nationals scored 6 runs in the bottom of the 9th to win that game 8-7, and the person who got the walk-off hit was Jeter Downs.
Oh.
Former supposed key to the Mookie Betts trade, Jeter Downs, who was DFA'd and is now getting walk-off hits for the Nationals. By the way, this weekend also showed why you can't always say who won a trade, because sometimes both sides can win a trade. Now, Pablo Lopez pitched wonderfully for the Twins in one of their wins against the Philadelphia Phillies. And that's not a crummy team. They were in Philadelphia, who were a playoff team, and Minnesota won the series. Lopez was terrific. And so the Twins got, obviously, a terrific pitcher. And it cost them Luis Ariz, who had a fabulous weekend against the Yankees, got the big home run in the game that Alcantara pitched on Saturday, and hit a game-tying triple in the bottom of the ninth in a surreal ninth inning, where the Yankees brought in Holmes just as sort of like, hey, you haven't pitched in a little bit. Let's, give you some work. And the Yankees were up 7-2, I believe it was, and 7-3 going. 7-3. It was 7-2 going to the eighth, 7-3 going into the ninth. All right, that game's in the can. And Holmes got a hit, and then then he misplayed a ball that he threw away that should have been an out, and 2 runs came in to score. Ariz hits the game-tying triple. Boone someone woke Boone up from his nap, and then they brought in Tommy Kahnle, I believe it was, and it didn't matter because Berger got the game-winning hit. This is, first of all, should be euphoria time for the Marlins, who are still only half a game out of a playoff spot at this point. Every time you think the Yankees can't have a worse loss, any hope for the Yankees is gone.
Yeah, this season. It's cooked.
And let me put this into your brain. They're about to play the Braves. The Braves are the best team in baseball. Let's just say, if the Braves sweep the Yankees, which is a possibility, then the Yankees will be a sub-500 team. Okay? Not, without Judge, they're sub. No. They might be, with Judge, a sub-500 team if they get swept. And even if they lose the series, they'll be 1 game above 500 in mid-August. I'm sorry. There are good potential general managers out there. There are good experienced general managers out there. There are good actual managers out there. In fact, there are 2 managers out there who have been linked to the Yankees in the past and have coaching experience on World Series championship teams. I'm talking about Hensley Mullins and Roberto Kelly. Also, there are just people who have been tremendous farm directors and assistant general managers all throughout baseball who would love to take over the Yankees. If the Yankees go into 2024 with Brian Cashman as their general manager and Aaron Boone as their manager, they are putting the biggest middle finger in the face of every Yankee fan in the world. And I will tell you, as someone who was born in New England and grew up rooting for the Red Sox, I would do a victory dance if those 2 come back. They have constructed the roster of a team. Look at they could be 500. The Diamondbacks could be 500. The expectations of those 2 teams is not 2001, are not equal.
No.
And this could be a catastrophe.
Yeah,
but I love it.
Honestly, just make Aaron Judge bobbleheads with the middle finger up, because they're both going to come back next season. Brian Cashman is locked in with that ownership group with the New York Yankees. And because of that, Aaron Boone's forever linked with Brian Cashman. But if you do need a silver lining with the Yankees the last couple of seasons, because we talked a lot about the shortstop market the last couple of years, about how the Yankees needed to go and get a guy. If you look at all those guys that have signed the last couple of years, I mean, the Yankees kind of dodged a bullet with the Bogarts, the Dansbys, the Trey Turners, the Carlos Correas. Really the only guy, and it's your favorite one that you've wanted to link to the Yankees, the only one who you could even say, outside of Shohei Ohtani, might have been the best player in the American League this season when healthy. Corey Seager for the Texas Rangers has been an absolute stud this year, and he's been on like a home run tear the last couple of weeks as well.
Corey Seager was put on this earth to play shortstop for the New York Yankees, and why he is not is reason enough to fire Brian Cashman. Corey Seager was the most obvious target in the history of free agency. This guy's swing was perfect for the Yankee Stadium. He's a World Series champion. He's a postseason stud. He's a terrific shortstop. He would have been beloved in the Bronx. And instead, he's going to go to the postseason with Texas.
Got
There
Volpe.
you go. All right. Oh, Volpe.
Volpe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Volpe. I'm sure he's going to be great. He's going to be fantastic. In fact, they're already working on a Yankeeography for him. Hey, Millard Thomas, tell people where they can listen to your show.
Hey, follow me on Twitter at CreatorThomas24 for my personal account. Look up Locked On Diamondbacks, both Twitter, Instagram for the podcast handle, streaming on all podcasting platforms. Look up Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube as well.
And you can follow me. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram, and the show's at Locked On MLB Pods. And make sure to post your comments here. Talking about a wild weekend and the rise of the Mariners and the fall of the Diamondbacks. Have we covered all of Randy Johnson's teams? Maybe we did. This has been a Locked On MLB, Locked On Diamondbacks crossover. Let's fist bump for another week.
Boom.